All right, we have a game that was requested. Let me fix this. There you go. All right, we have a game that was requested a couple of days ago, and just getting to it. This is Scott's game, and Scott's playing white, and the question was, what could he have done differently to win? And so I'm looking at this cold. I think I looked at it when you first sent it in, but then it's been a couple days. So let's just go through the opening. So that's fine. Opening king or queen pawn. We had a queen pawn response. We get a knight move out, attacking here, which is fine. One thing that is to consider, this is a decision. It's not bad or good, but when you move this out, you're trapping this pawn. But what you also do is you create what we call a knight wedge. So you can have a knight wedge, you can have a bishop wedge. The good thing about a knight wedge is when you have a knight wedge or bishop wedge is when you have one of your minor pieces wedged in between a pawn chain. And the good thing about knight wedges in general is the amount of coverage that you get from your pieces. If I continue to wrap these out, so you have these two squares covered by your pawn. You have these squares covered by your knight, and then these squares covered by your other pawn. So you do have what b4 and c4 open, and of course you have all of these squares covered by your bishop. So in general, a knight wedge is good. Just remember you are making a decision to kind of trap that pawn that I just highlighted. But let's get rid of all that. So we're going forward. Protects the pawn with his own pawn chain. Now we're coming up, and again, one thing you may consider is developing a bishop before you move that open. That's going to trap this bishop a little bit. You could develop the bishop to d2, but by moving this, you are opening up your light squared bishop. Let's go ahead. All right, so now your knight is pinned to the king. We're going to check the king with the bishop. It's going to block. So this is a move that often gets made. What happens here is one of the big advantages for white is tempo. You get to move first. You kind of get to decide how things develop. When you check the knight with a bishop, the king with this bishop like this, you know they're going to respond. Possible responses are they could bring their knight, they could bring their pawn, they could bring their bishop, they could bring their queen. They're not going to bring their queen, so we could probably take that off. But almost, so if they bring their knight, they're pinning their knight. If they bring their bishop, your bishop's being attacked. But almost always they're going to bring their pawn, which is what happened here. Now that's attacking your bishop. You're not going to trade your bishop for a pawn, so now you have to retreat your bishop. Options are, having looked at the PNG over here, still not looking at it. Options are to move back here. This then potentially starts to get your bishop trapped over here, because now you're going to have to retreat here. This pawn is trapping as well as this pawn. So then we can't retreat our bishop to c3 or c4, pardon me. So it looks like we're going to have to go back either to d3 or or e2. So when you check like this, you lose. So let's see what you did. Oh, so you went here. So this is a concern, because what could happen is a follow-up here. See, maybe I've already looked at this. What could happen is a follow-up here. So now you're going to have to move here, and your bishop, it's only looking at two squares. And so you've taken a 3 point piece, and you've relegated it to only controlling 2 squares. So that's no bueno. All right, so let's oh, I don't want to do that. Let's step back and see how you you went here. How did they respond? Oh, they responded by taking the knight. Okay, so what should have happened here, I think this is Scott, is we're taking here. Okay, so this this bishop we should open up. Obviously, this is not our best pawn structure. We got doubled up pawns, but it's better than the material loss that you're going to have, because so right now, if you look down where my cursor is circling, you have taken a bishop, they have taken a knight. But how you're proceeding, you're blocking with this bishop here, and they should just take. And so now you could take back this bishop either with your king or your queen, but whatever you do, you're going to be down 3 points of material. All right, you took back with the queen. So already they are up a knight against us. So we got to have some really good counterplay in order to overcome being down 3 points of material this early on. Okay, develops a knight, develop your queen. Now, this is not a good move by your opponent. So generally in the opening, you want to set your pawn structure and you want to move your minor pieces once, unless they get kicked by a pawn or something. And that's why we don't necessarily... Let's go back. Oh, okay. I started to make a point about your bishop check that I never really completed. So instead of doing this check here, what would be better would be to simply develop to here. It's a nice stable place for your bishop to be. It's got this long diagonal that it can look at. It is kind of blocking in your queen right now, but your queen doesn't need to be activated yet anyways. And besides, your queen has this other diagonal to go on. So now your bishop is well placed, better than on b3, because b3 is not a good spot for it. And your opponent, they could still make this development, but now it's your turn. So let's assume that instead of going back to a4, you retreated here. So let's go ahead and play your check. So you check here, then they move here, and then you put your bishop back here at a good spot. We're in the same exact position, but you've used 2 turns to get there. So you've given up what we call a tempo in order to get to the same position. Whereas if you had simply moved here, because that check is not doing anything, it's not going to win the game. I mean, unless they do something crazy like block with their queen, which they're not going to do. The best you could hope for is an even exchange of material, like a knight for your bishop or a bishop for your bishop. But what's likely going to happen is you're going to lose a tempo, because they're going to kick your bishop with this pawn. So then we want to retreat and put this bishop here where we can see these nice diagonals. Okay. All right. So that was the point I was wanting to make about when you open up to this checking square, they're going to respond and you're going to lose a tempo. All right, so let's go back to our game where we were. Okay, so oh, I did not want to do that. Oh, so what I was going to say is this is not a good move for your opponent, because we got a knight here, we got a bishop here that are not developed. King's not castled. And so your opponent moving here is doing 2 things. It's wasting a tempo for them, and it's also putting the knight on the edge of the board. And we have a saying, knights on the rim are dim, because dim-witted, because they control fewer squares there on the edge of the board. So unless there's something really unique that you need to go after, like you need to reroute your knight but both of the places that the knight can go to from here are being guarded by these pawns. So this is not a good move for your opponent here. I don't understand the thought process behind that. you castle long, targeting the knight. So what would be a better move? The computer wants you to do G4 here to kick this knight. Yeah, so this is what I mean. Your opponent moved the knight and then put a pawn where the knight just came from, because the knight just came from F6. The knight cannot retreat there. Like I just pointed out, the only places that the knight can go are guarded by your pawns. So here, instead of what you did was you moved your queen down to attack the knight. A better move would be to attack the knight with the pawn immediately, because now the knight has to move someplace, and the only place that the knight can move is the place that it'll be attacked. All right, so I mean, but a good idea. Attacking this knight that's poorly placed is good overall. He's going to defend that knight. So the difference between the pawn being here and the queen being here is I'll trade a pawn for a knight. I won't trade a queen for a knight. So let's just rewind this back. Let's say you moved here and then they defend here. Fine, defend with that pawn. I'm still taking the knight. You can take my pawn. Now I'm starting to gain back some of that material edge. He's still up one on me, but I have taken a knight back, and now he's only up a pawn. Whereas we would not want to trade our queen for this. We wouldn't want to do this, obviously. That would be horrible. So so he's going to guard with the and also this is a good move from your opponent, because not only does it guard the knight, but it gives the knight a retreat square. So even if we play this now, his knight can now retreat. All right, so let's see what happens in the game. All right, you're gonna develop. You know, this is good. Diagonal pawn chains are generally good. Pushes a pawn. Okay, so now we have this move. He retreats the knight. We push our knight. So yeah, so this pawn, what could have happened was just taking here. But we see why that's a bad move, because that leaves the bishop hanging. I can just take with my queen. So when we move our knight here, we're leaving our pawn hanging, because our knight is not protecting that pawn. Our queen was protecting our pawn. So our opponent, your opponent just takes the pawn off with, you know, this is a free pawn there. Okay. Yeah, so when you're up material, and this is what your opponent's doing, when you're up material, any even trade you can make, you want to make, because if I'm up 3 points of material and I can trade off all the pieces evenly after that, that means I'm going to be in an endgame with, well, unless it's just a single knight or a single bishop, let's say it's 3 pawns up 3 pawns and a king versus a king. That's a winning position. So anytime you're up any amount of, especially a significant amount of material, you want to start trading off pieces. So this is a perfectly fine move here. Your opponent is up 4 material on you. So we're going to start trading off pieces. So yeah, you can take back, but as more pieces come off the board simplifies, and that 3 or 4 points of material difference will start having a bigger advantage. All right, let's keep going. Pawn takes, pawn retakes. Yeah, so a better move here, I do remember looking at this. A better move here would have been your G rank rook here. And I'm trying to remember the reason why that was a better move than the D rook. In both cases, we still want to block here. Okay, that's a surprising move by the computer. Oh, why can't they take back? Because this is pinned. So, let's see, the computer wants them to respond with here, and then we go here. Oh, no, we don't go there. We go, oh yeah, because that's no longer pinned. What was it? I wonder, what is it, QF3? There was some point to leaving this rook on the D file that the computer had when I looked at this before. I'm trying to see where that comes to fruition. I'm just playing through the computer's suggested moves. All right, so let's get back to the game itself. You moved here, and there was some, let's see, still wants you to take. Yeah, I'm not, the computer is seeing something that why it was better, but in general, that is a good thought. To your, whenever we can pin the queen to the king with a piece that's protected, that's good. So that's a good thought. They are going to block with their knight. You're moving your queen over here. I think the concern here is that your queen might get trapped. What move did it want them to make? Wanted to get the king out of harm's way. Yeah. Yeah, it's still just wanting you to pick up this free pawn because this pawn is pinned. And sometimes that's hard to remember. You just see this pawn chain. Ooh, I wouldn't want to take that pawn, but this pawn cannot move right now. Okay, well, let's just keep going. Okay. Yeah, the valuation bar swung on this. Yeah, the computer's wanting you just to take here. When they retake here, you have this. And then you can swing over here. So I'm just looking at some of the lines the computer has suggested. But okay, so what you did was you took here, which I don't hate. Now the valuation bar swings over because there must be something that the computer sees. But in general, what we're doing is we're going to take this pawn. We're going to basically trade our one rook for a pawn and a rook, because if they take your rook back, then you can take with check. That's not what they did. They didn't take back here. So you could take here. Oh, they want you to do it like this. REX. That still keeps this alive. So we got a triple battery here if we take that way. hitting on against the queen. What did we? So you took this way. This is not the reason it was better to take with your pawn on the first rank is that it gives you that triple battery here and more opportunity to mate this king. All right, gets out of dodge. All right, we got a mate in 6 here. This is what this evaluation tells us. And whenever I'm thinking immediately, we got some mate opportunities. We got a bishop that, but for this pawn, is staring down here. So you think about how your pieces sometimes are x-raying different squares. It is being blocked, so we would have to overcome that. We have our queen, which is, you know, a huge piece that is here that we could, you know, potentially move here and start taking away mobility here. We got 2 rooks lined up on this open file. So this is in your advantage. So of all the mistakes, all the mistakes that we talked about before, White's only up 1 material point at this point in time. So you have some opportunities here. Took the queen, not a bad move. Knight's moving in. Okay. Yeah. This pawn push was pretty good. What might have been better is this for you to go ahead and get your queen up here. Or even instead of up to h6, h5 to give you a look at this, looking at that diagonal square. Because now the pawn can only move 1. You could check here. He can either move or he could take back with the rook. If he takes with the rook, you could come in with your queen. Now he's got to move here. Then you could sweep up this rook here. So I'm not sure if you were thinking about just challenging this knight with your rook. But we still have, with perfect play, we still have mate in 8. So we still have mating opportunities here. So let's see. Moves here. All right. I'm not sure what rerouting this rook does for you, unless you're maybe wanting to hit the knight from here. Yeah, protecting your rook. So now we're letting the king is starting to get away. We still have a mate in 7 with perfect play. Brings the rook over. You take. Yeah, that lessened your. Well, you still have mate 9 now. So these long mate threats with perfect play from you means that your opponent can't stop it if you play it right. But the bigger that number is, the harder it is for a human to see. I'm not even going to go down this line to see. Normally, mate in 1, mate in 2, potentially mate in 3 at your level. Those are the things that you should be working on seeing. Okay, we've got a check of our king. All right. We take. All right. So here's, if I remember. Okay. Computer did not like that. Computer wants you to take this pawn. And I almost wouldn't mind you. Let's see what the computer thinks of taking it with the queen. Yeah, I mean, typically you're not going to take, if you take this pawn. So the reason why this pawn is good to be gone is because it's opening up all these long range pieces, and it's allowing potentially, like, your next move. Let's say he does something. Your next move could be, well, could be here, and we're checking. But it also opens up our queen to be able to move here and start getting some play there. All right, so let's get back to the game. Let's see. So you moved up here, and now it kind of leaves this pawn moving. I guess we could look to check here in the future. But if I remember right, you get checkmated coming up. Yeah, so that's a problem, because what we just did is we opened up, we moved. So here we were winning. You got checked. You could have just come right back up here. Oh no, we don't necessarily want to do that either, because we don't have an escape square here. So just moving here would have been optimum, and then we could, oh, that's not what I want. So just moving here, and then we have this little escape route to get away from his rooks. But when we move here, now we are oh yeah, what I'm telling, don't just, we'll edit that part out. Yeah, you have to make a move here. It's wanting KD1. Yes, yeah, down one, because when you moved over, this wasn't protected. So now you can take, and you're not checkmated, and you still have a mate in 3. A pretty easy mate in 3, because if he checks you here, you take here. That was his best move. He pushes a pawn, RG7 plus. He's got to move anywhere, doesn't matter, and then you have a checkmate. But when you moved, so you had a pretty big advantage. You moved here. Now you can't guard this square, and he can checkmate you. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. We got this done in 28 minutes, not 38 minutes like I did for Sam's, but it takes me a little while to go through these. So I think this one, with having this one done, I still have one request from Sam and one request again from Scott on another one. So we'll get this one pushed up, and I don't know when I'll get to the other 2. Tomorrow we have Chess Club, so I won't have it done by then. But and then I also want to do a game that we had. Oh, is it another one by? I just finished a game with Zach, which I thought was a really good game. So if you ever watch this, Zach, he played well. But yeah, I want to highlight that game as well. All right, we will stop the recording.